Hey, it's Hershey, and today I'll be showing you guys how I color different skin tones using markers. Just a quick disclaimer, I'll be focusing on 3 skin tone groups in this video, but if you'd like me to do a part 2 where I include more, then let me know. That being said, the timestamps are in the description, and let's get started. So I did the liner and the sketch off camera so that we could focus on the actual coloring process in this video. Also, I will be mainly using a Hoo markers, specifically from the 24 skin tone set, but I'll also be using some Artix markers. I'll be listing the markers that I use, so for example, these are the ones I'm using for the lightest skin tone, so you guys can follow along. Starting off with the lightest skin tone, you'll need 3 markers, a base, a blush, and a shadow color, not counting accents or whatever else you're going to add. First, I go in with the base color and color all the areas that the skin is. Don't worry about it being streaky because we're going to go over everything at the end, so just don't worry about blending or making it super smooth at the moment. Just think of it like a base that you're going to add to later. Now I'm going to be using a pink tone blush which goes under the eyes and a bit on the nose. You can also do this on the lips, which I forgot to do in this clip, but I'll be doing it later, and on the eyelid as well, though that's more of a stylistic choice. Also, depending on the tone of blush that you use, you can change the hue of your drawing. Since I'm using a pink blush, my drawing is more cool tone, but if you use a coral, it'll come out more warm toned. Now I'm just going to be blending it out using the base color, and now we're going to be going in for these shadows. When you add shadows, it mainly depends on the lighting placement in your drawing, but in general, I like to add them below the neck, below the hair, the sides of the face, and a little bit near the nose. I also like to blend it out with the blush for a softer look, since most of the time if I blend it out with the base color, it'll come out looking a bit muddy. Now, after I blend it out with the blush, I'm going to go in again with the base color to blend that out so that it just gives this nice little gradient look, and I really like how it looks. It just makes the drawing look softer, and I think looks really pretty. Now I'm going to be using this super saturated pink color and add a line right under the eyes because I really like how this looks. This is definitely more of a stylistic choice, but these are just the finishing touches that I do. You can also add some on the eyelids and make it look really shiny. I think that's a cool look that some people do. For this part, I also blend it out with the blush color, but don't blend it too much or else it won't be as visible and it'll just blend into the blush, so it won't actually look like you've added anything. For other accent colors, I like to use purple and blue, especially for lighter skin. It's really fun to play around with other colors that you add into the skin. I personally think that blue works better with light skin, while purple looks better for darker skin, but that's a personal preference. I add them basically anywhere that I think that look good. It's just kind of like a wing it and more of an abstract thing at this point. At the end, I just blend all the colors together with the blush and go over everything once with the base to smooth it all out. You can also add accent colors like orange or red depending on the hue of your drawing. You can also blend the skin color into the hair color if you think it'll match well, but you'll see me do that later when I actually color the rest of these drawings. Here's how it looks, and now we're moving on to the next skin tone, which is more of a brown skin tone. It's kind of like a mid-tone, and like the light color skin tone, I'm going to be starting off by going over everything with the base color. Again, don't worry about it being streaky because it will turn out smooth in the end. Now I'm just going over everything. For darker skin tone, especially for like darker than this, I don't recommend blending it into the hair color like you do with lighter skin tones. I think with browns it's still okay if the hair color is darker, but if it's lighter then it'll come out looking muddy and it won't look as good. Now for the blush, this is really important because it makes your drawing look more alive and not dead in a sense. So I'm adding this super saturated like hot pink or red color because like I said before, it makes the skin look more vibrant and I think it just pulls the drawing together. I'm adding it below the eyes and a little bit on the under part of the lips, and again I'm just blending it out with the base shade. Also, when you're coloring darker skin tones, it will end up like layering and it'll make the base color look darker than it was the first time, but it'll end up looking like the same tone once you're done later on. Right now the alcohol marker is still setting, so don't worry about that. For the shadows, I'm doing it slightly differently compared to the lighter skin tone. First, I go in with a dark brown color for the shadow under the neck, hair, face, edges, etc. Basically the same. But I personally think this looks kind of bland, so what I like to do is go over those shadows that I just marked out with a dark purple color. I really like the look of this because it just adds more color and like it makes the skin feel more alive in a sense. For the accent color, I'm also going back in with the blush and adding it to like some random areas where there's shadows or just regular skin. But also don't add like a lot of different colors or else it'll just look really random and it won't look as put together. The only reason I am adding these two is to match with the color scheme because the hair color later on will also be like a hot pink color. Finally, just go over everything with the skin base color once more to make sure that it looks smooth, and that is the final look. At the end, you can just go back and forth between the accent colors and the base color if you think anything looks off, to just make it so that you think it looks good, and this is how it looks. Now the final skin tone is the darkest one that I'm doing in this video. This skin tone, I use a different method than what I do for the other two, and you'll see that right now. So first, you're going to go in with the vibrant blush color. I'm actually using the same one that I used last time because I think it suits this drawing very well, and I accidentally started coloring the base color on the neck, but ignore that. This base color is actually more of an undertone. That's like a cool tone brown. I think it'll look good because I'm going to blend it out later, but you can skip this because it's not really necessary, and you can just go in straight with your base color that you're using. For the base color, I'm using this really purple toned dark color, and I think it looks really nice and it matches the blush tone really well. I was going to attempt some like lighting highlight on the forehead, but I decided against it because it ended up looking kind of bad. Similar to the other two drawings, don't worry about it being patchy, especially with darker skin. Just go with the flow and it will all turn out good in the end. This part is kind of tricky because you have to go back and forth with the blush and the base color until you get the color that you want, especially if the color is like a lot less saturated and lighter than the blush. So just keep on going and make sure that you pick a super saturated blush for the skin tone because that will help it appear the best and it'll just look the best in my opinion. Now for the shadows, instead of using a darker brown because I find that really boring and bland, I'm going to be using two purple tones. Purple is definitely the best color to shade darker skin tone, especially if you have darker purples. So first off, I'm using a warm shaded purple to map out where I want the shadows to be, and then I'm going in with the cooler tone purple to deepen the shadows and just fix up the drawing in general. Again, I'm just adding them under the neck, beneath the hairline, and I added some to the nose area as well. Finally, I'm just going in and over everything and shading it and just blending it out to make sure that it looks smooth. And now we are finally done with all three of these skin tones for these drawings. Usually I go in with the skin tone and I finish the drawing, but for this video I just want to do skin tone by skin tone and then do all the rest of the coloring at the end. So that was basically it for the tutorial part of this video, and I hope it was helpful. If you guys want any more tutorials or you have any more video ideas, then comment down below because I would always love to do any video ideas or recommendations that you guys have. I've also been thinking of doing more digital art videos because I've definitely improved a lot over the past 2 weeks for some reason, and I think I might do like a chill draw with me but digital art edition instead of doing it in my sketchbook because I thought it's like slowly getting boring just doing the same characters and poses and everything. Speaking of characters, let me know if there's any that you want me to draw or like see in my style or anything, because I do kind of want to do a video where I'm like drawing my subscribers' requests, or if I ask you guys on the community tab, maybe I'll do that later and you guys can just like tell me if you have any characters that you want me to do fan art of, because I think that's like a fun idea that I might do. I also made this drawing like complementary color schemed without actually knowing it. I only realized at the end when I was doing the background color basically it was like all kind of done by the hair color, because the first girl I knew I wanted her to have more of a blue color scheme, but I wanted her to have black hair, and then the second girl I wanted to be like hot pink or like some unnatural hair color because I wanted her to like have it dyed. And the last girl, I was actually just going to go for silver hair, but I decided that would look too similar to the first girl's hair because it came out lighter than I expected, and also I don't know how to shade silver hair and my white gel pen isn't working properly, so I might have to get a new one, and I didn't know how I was gonna like add highlights to the silver hair or anything, so I just went for like this orange tone kind of pale yellow hair. I actually really like how this drawing came out, and I really like the color scheme as well. For final touches, I went in and added some purple and gray to all the white areas and like the eye whites and everything. And I also went in with a different gel pen, this is like an older one, and I kind of did a different style of eyes in this drawing by making the pupils like white and then removing an eye highlight because the pupils would kind of become an eye highlight. I used to do this a lot earlier, and I think I'm slowly getting back into it because I kind of don't like how pupils look in my art style. I also added some highlights to the hair. You can kind of see how I do it. I just basically add blobs of color and I just go until it looks good. And then I also added some highlights to the lip areas and some around the chin to kind of like make bounce light, I think it's called. Now for the background, I just added some boxes because I wanted something that was simple and wouldn't really distract the viewer from the piece too much. So I just went with these boxes, and they did look a little bit weird at first, and I was struggling to draw a straight line and I had to use a ruler, but the ruler didn't work either. So I just winged it and I think it looks pretty good. For the boxes, I did go in with the blue, the pink, and the yellow. Like I said, very complementary color scheme. I also added some like mini boxes at the edge because I thought that would look good, and also the page is looking very empty. And here is how the drawing came out. I actually really like it. I really like the spread. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I hope this is helpful. So yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.